Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tin Man's Core Channel. I'm your host, Jeff the Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reacting by second scary storyteller, and that's Killer Orange Cat. And the video that I'll be watching is called My Exorcism-Creepypasta. So without further ado, I'm going to turn these lights off, move the camera up here for you guys, and let's get this reaction on the road and in the bag, shall we? Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is Killer Orange Cat. I want to preface this video by saying that if you're listening to this and you read the title, you know this is about a possession and an exorcism. Also, there are a few words in here which are a little more explicit than I tend to use in other videos. So just be warned beforehand that if these things bother you, it might not be the best idea to listen to the video.
Well, I'm glad he gives a little warning before he starts this video about what is about to be said. That might be explicit. But anyway, let's continue.
If they don't, please enjoy. My exorcism. One thing that's consistent in exorcism stories is that once a person has been successfully exorcised, they seem to lose all memory of the exorcism itself and the entire possession.
Really? Didn't know that. You would think that people will still remember all that once it's all over, but hey, better to have no memory of it and not have nightmares about it all over again. But let's continue.
Well, that's the major thing that sets my experience apart from all the others you may have heard. I remember it.
Oh crap.
I remember every bit of it.
That'd be scary.
Now, I can't tell you that I know what parts were real and what parts just existed in my head, but I could tell you the details of everything if I wanted to. But I don't. Or at least I won't go over the entire thing with you because it would be impossible for you to relate to everything I went through.
That's smart because a lot of people that been through an exorcism probably wouldn't know what you're talking about or that never happened to them. It's something different, but you definitely want to hold back on some more negative stuff that might make people sick in the stomach to hear or get scared and jumpy.
There's only so much you need to understand. Being possessed by an entity, especially one whose existence is completely different than your own, is the very definition of hell. The entity pervades your entire being. Its thoughts begin to infiltrate your own, and you find yourself thinking things you'd never considered before. You find yourself doing things you would never consider doing. All the thoughts in your head are in direct conflict with your own sensibilities.
In other words, it's not cool at all. Basically a living nightmare and going through hell like he just described.
Begin to actually feel like you're losing your mind. That's what it was like for me. In the beginning, when I first began to notice something was wrong, I was seeing all these bright and disturbing images flashing inside my brain. At first, I just thought I was exhausted because it wasn't completely visual. It was almost just a knowing that the images were there, which could have been because I was tired. But even when I was rested, the images wouldn't go away. And they were soon accompanied by distorted thoughts. And the more distorted the thoughts became, the more solidified the images in my mind were. They were all contrary to my own beliefs, almost as if someone was thinking my thoughts for me. And honestly, there is nothing worse than when you cannot control what you're thinking.
I know. That'd be a nightmare for sure. Sometimes you just get those thoughts where you say, get out of my head, and then you pat yourself on the skull. But that's like if you're not possessed. If you were possessed, there ain't no way you can control this stuff entering your mind.
You see, being possessed isn't like you see in the movies. It's not just an entity entering your body and taking over. It's a constant battle between you and the other being, trying to beat the other into submission so the winner can take over. But it's not easy for you or the entity. You struggle and yell at each other and try to push the other out. I felt like there were two bodies smashed together into my own, and I slowly began to slip into a complete state of insanity. When the troubles were starting, of course, I was pulled out of school pretty quickly. Everyone just assumed I was sick, and that's how it began. But when I remained home from school, it became clearer to those around me that this wasn't some sort of communicable illness. It was something worse. My family life quickly became completely unbearable for everyone, including me. I'd sit at the dinner table, seemingly arguing with myself, but in different voices, and not really knowing which one was which. One of us would yell, "Get the fuck out of my brain! I'll never fucking do that!" And then the other would argue back in a different voice, "It's not your brain, not your soul, it's mine. My life, you get out."
Okay, that'll be creepy, weird, and a jump back scary moment all at once. If I was sitting at the dinner table with him, I'll be like, that's it, call a priest. And like you said, he's not sick with a common cold that can be passed around. He's got something that won't let go of him.
The worst thing about it is that the things get muddled after a while, and occasionally I forgot where the line was drawn between me and the invader. I began to get confused as to if I was talking out loud or arguing in my head. I would begin jerking my head with the words as if that would give them some added meaning or emphasis. But I didn't know if it did it or if anyone really knew what was going on. Well, whenever these outbursts would happen, my parents would send my sisters out of the room. Oh God, what I put them through. Oh God, what I put them all through. My older and younger sister, both crying on a regular basis as they had to deal with witnessing my struggle. The times I would scream obscenities at them without stopping until foam was pouring out of my mouth and they would start crying to our parents. I would scream at them, accusing them of sexual misdeeds that I won't repeat here at all. Our folks would assure them that I just wasn't in my right mind, but that didn't calm them down. They were watching their only brother go completely insane before their eyes, and nothing could be worse for them than that. While my parents were still convinced it was an illness, the doctors were puzzled as to what to do. I was put on antidepressants for a while. When that didn't work, they put me on antipsychotics.
Those medications will not work at all. He's not mentally insane. There's a literal demon in his body. Call a priest and get him exorcised, for God's sake, instead of waiting to see if anything else would help.
Antipsychotics really are just really strong sedatives that make you too tired to be crazy. But they didn't work. There was no effect. My mother was against my remaining in a psychiatric ward, and she kept me at home to take care of me. Since I wasn't really considered a danger to anybody, I didn't try to hurt anyone. It was loud. It probably wasn't the best idea, though, because the strain it put my mom through. Well, for the weeks that this was going on, I forgot what it felt like to sleep. I honestly never felt rested. I always felt like I was at war, at battle. I was fighting 24/7, and the hours, and the days, and the weeks, they all melded together into one big blob of time. Well, I can't tell you when the decision for the exorcism was made. I didn't know. I wasn't in on the conversation. Plus, I wasn't the entity, so I didn't have the ability to know what was going on around me, like, happens in the movies. I didn't even know if something was going on until the day the priest came into my room. Either me or the entity, at this point I wasn't sure, was put off by it, jumped out of bed and ran and hid in the corner.
Of course you would, because a demon sees a priest. They're going to be scared because they don't want to leave their host. But that's the only way that will help you so you can get back to a normal life.
My dad came over to grab me and bring me back to the bed. I don't know. Maybe he felt like the horror movie exorcism cliche required me to be in the bed. My hand, however, scratched 4 deep grooves into his face when he tried to touch me. Get you and your cocksucking priest out of here before I drag you both into hell with me, I heard my voice saying. And the priest came over and put his hand on my dad's shoulder and told him it was okay. I didn't have to be in the bed, and he could perform the exorcism with me on the floor in the corner. He had my parents leave and had me in the room with him by himself. So, what was the exorcism like, you're wondering? Did the priest sprinkle me with holy water? Did he tell me the power of Christ compels me? Sort of. He really didn't say anything in English, and I don't speak Latin.
Yeah, most of exorcism rituals are in Latin, but I'll be telling that demon to shut up.
Being possessed didn't give me some magical power to understand it, but he chanted things, and he sprinkled me with holy water. Did it burn? No. It was just wet and annoying. I don't believe it burned the entity either. I mean, looking back on it, it wouldn't have made sense if it burned the entity. What the exorcism was just a bunch of chants and rituals and me yelling obscenities and cursing the priest for who knows how long. I mean, I told you I'd seemed like I'd been awake for so long that time lost all meaning. All there was struggle. There was agony. There was arguing and hearing my voice yelling things and pleading for help with other things, and it was all jumbled, but I remember it all. I remember swearing at the entity and feeling it fight back, but it fought less and less and grew weaker and weaker. I heard every word, but the words meant nothing. And they went on and on and on. And then it was clear. And then there was only one voice in my head, and I knew it was mine. I don't really know what convinced the entity to leave. Was it the priest? Did it give up? I don't know. But it left. So I was me again. My thoughts were no longer being held at bay by the entity. My actions were no longer restrained by the force that had taken control of me for so long. I knew who I was. I knew what I wanted. And I knew that I was in complete control. See, the scariest thing in the world is not knowing who you are. When you don't know who you are, you can't know what you want. When you can't know what you want, you can't know what you need to do. And sometimes your conscience is like a separate entity residing inside your soul that keeps you from doing the most vile and disgusting things that you feel inclined to do. Conscience keeps you from stealing. Conscience keeps you from hurting others. Conscience keeps you from killing in the most vile ways you can think of. Conscience is like an entity that keeps an evil soul from doing the evil things it wants to do. You see, the exorcism was successful. The invaded entity was removed, but the entity wasn't making me do bad things at all. It wasn't a demon. I'm not sure what it was, but I know it was keeping me from totally living up to my true potential. And now that it's gone, I can finally do everything I want to.
Okay, since this is a story that Killer Orange Cat guy wrote, I know it's fake, but that was a little creepy how he said it towards the end, where he said that demon or whatever it was holding him back to his true potential. I would like to know what he meant by that, but he did a good job with not only narrating but writing that story. That really creeped me out. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications for more Killer Orange Cat related content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Core channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I said that's a wrap. Have a nice day, y'all.